Allie with Potomac Beads, and this Better Beader episode is going to concentrate on those pesky knots. When they are in the right place, knots can be awesome. When they are not in the right place, they can be really, really frustrating and kind of take a mental toll. So I'm going to give you some useful hints to get knots out of thread and cording as well as chain. So let's get started. So we're going to begin with chain here. Now obviously this is a bigger chain, so it's going to be easier to get the knot out than if you have a smaller or finer chain that you're working with. Remember, to get the knot out, you want to have a nice, clear, workable surface. Nothing's as frustrating as if you have kind of pliers sitting around and they get tangled in there. As like you're trying to get that knot out, it gets more tangled. One thing you want to make sure to do is, if you have a clasp on the necklace, unhook the clasp of the necklace so that the chain is kind of free and you can find that knot. Now I just put one knot in here, it's really easy to see, but to give you some ideas about how to do that. After unhooking the knot, and if you have multiple necklaces, make sure to unhook all of those clasps so that way it is free and you can kind of move this around the piece without having both of the ends together. What you want to do is kind of spread out the thread and have a nice workable surface. Now there is the tulip awl, which is great because it has a really thin end, and then an inexpensive beading awl or a kind of pointed tip. If you have something that's really fine, keep in mind you can even pick up a scrap piece of wire, or if it's really fine, that's what your needles are for. So if you have any of your needles, like the tulip needle, you can grab the needle and kind of work at it with both ends. I would recommend actually the tulip beading awl or the knotting awl. And what you can do is kind of go into the piece, wiggle it around, give it a little bit of friction. If it's not moving, you may want to add a little baby powder, which sounds kind of funky, or some oil lubricants, like you can use vegetable oil, nice and easy. You do want to check the chain to see if any of those things would affect it. Now if you have a knot in thread that you want to get out of, a knot in cord that you want to get out, you may not want to use that same method as the oil or the baby powder, but in some cases it may be necessary. What that's going to do is basically eliminate some of that friction of the piece and allow it to glide out of place. So if I had put oil on this, you're also going to want to keep in mind either of those things, that afterwards grab a little Dawn dish soap, some really, really mild soap, and clean the area after you use those products. So if I have a chain here and I have a knot, what I'm going to do is kind of work on the exterior or the outside of where the actual chain is, seeing if I can include and pull out either sides of the chain when I'm working on it. If it's really, really tight, go ahead and see if you can find the source of where that is and use your awl to kind of pull that apart. Once you find the loop, sometimes you can keep the awl in and pull the chain and pull that loop out, getting out that nice knot. So I have that nice knot apart now. And what I want to do to store my piece now is, I don't want that knot to happen again. So I'm going to take, say, a straw, put one end through a straw, clasp on either side. Another thing that you can do is take one of the tiny bags that say some of your beads came in, put the whole chain in, but remove and let the clasp dangle to the outside of the bag. That's a great way to recycle your bag, and when you're traveling, it's a great way to not have it tangled. Straws, we have tons of them, plastic ones. Just do a little quick rinse of a straw that you got from a restaurant and put the chain through there. It will save you tons and tons of hassle. If you have a pendant hanging down, say you have a little pendant here at the end, keep in mind you can fit one piece of straw through, cut it to whatever length you need to, say 8 inches if it's a 16-inch necklace, have that pendant dangle at the bottom, and that is going to be it. One thing that happens a lot with chain that you don't realize is that it's not actually a knot between the two ends, it's a knot in the middle. This happens very frequently with thread. So if I have my thread here and I'm working on a project, a lot of times when I am sewing or getting ready to kind of have a piece and I get a knot in the project, most of the time the knot is not actually a knot, it's just the cord twisted on itself. What happens generally is that the thread is going to kind of get twisted almost around itself. And what you need to do as you're pulling through and you can't get it is figure out basically if that knot is knotted or if you can get it out. Sometimes you can go in and find the source of the knot at the beginning. Other times take some time and slowly see if it's an actual knot or if the thread is just twisted upon itself. When it's just twisted upon itself, or when it's one simple knot, as you start to feel it coming through in your beading thread and you want to get that out, keep in mind that you say, oh no, I have a knot there in my thread. Get your beading awl or your needle, put it into that knot. Even if it's a nice small knot, you can get it right in the middle there. And basically hold one end of the thread, and you can usually slide the knot out by pulling and holding it on to the awl, and the knot will slip out the end. When you are doing this and you have a piece that say, oh, I did the wrong bead in order and I want to get this stitch out, what you want to make sure is that you take the needle off your thread, grab that awl again. If you want to use a needle, I would recommend a size 10 or 12. Go in and pick up that thread. Make sure, again, that needle's off. Don't sew back through the cord because you are going to end up with more of a knot, and use that to pull the thread out of the piece. If there is a tangle in there somewhere, again, get a nice lighted area and go in with this awl, because it's nice and tiny, and try to fish out that knot that's in there so you can proceed with the piece that you're working on. Whether or not you're working with thin wire, thick wire, you can usually tell, even if you're using chain as well, where that knot is coming from. So here's a kumihimo piece or a leather piece here, macrame, and say, oh no, that's the wrong stitch. I wanted it to start to turn. Here again, look at the base and see where the knot is occurring. From there, you can usually put that beading awl in and kind of help it and work and push that loop out. So you can see I'm pushing it down further in the awl, and it's pushing it out and making a loop there that I can then feed out and use my fingers to kind of grip. Fingernails, just a tiny bit, are definitely helpful when it comes to getting out knots, and so are having the nice, useful tool like a beading awl, even a piece of wire to help kind of finesse and get that chain apart. And then there's helpful hints of using, when it comes to chain, especially fine chain, that's gonna be, you know, not much thicker than a piece of wire, making sure that you are doing a little bit of that lubricant, then soaking it off and getting that knot out. Again, the most important thing is that nice lit surface. Don't have lots of stuff kind of sitting around. Clear off your area. Get that chain unclasped and separated, and then work at it, figuring out whether or not you can get those ends apart. Now, obviously, no matter how careful you are with beading, knots are going to occur. This is just part of jewelry and part of traveling and part of everything in life. Knots occur in my sneakers sometimes. Knots occur in, you know, drawstrings of athletic pants. Knots occur when you're trying to thread a needle. Maybe you get a random knot. Patience is the key when it comes to knots. And then also going back, using something thin like the beading awl that you can go in and get as close to the start of that knot and kind of work your way out from the beginning of the incident, basically towards the outer edge. If you have tons of knots in your thread, say you have a piece of chain that has, you know, 6, 7 knots, or it's all twisted and you can't quite figure it out, again, unclasp it and just start from the end here and try to see, okay, if I move one piece, how can I work with it? But I would recommend, again, that flat surface, using the beading awl, and really taking your time trying to get that knot. Remember, if you need any materials, especially like the little awl or some thread or needles or wire to help to get those knots out, remember you can shop with us at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. We're always happy to send you supplies to help you in your beading journey. Remember as well that you can hit the little bell in the corner, that side, and subscribe to this YouTube channel to get regular updates from us here at Potomac Beads. As always, these are designed to make you a better beader, to help answer questions. And again, if you have any helpful hints, please comment down below and help out our beading community, as well as any suggestions for future Better Beader episodes of things that you're struggling with or answers that you would love to see. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and happy beading.